So we continue from where we left off. Chapter 20 to chapter 30, and yes, this is the last part of this novel. I wanted to take my time so that I don't rush it, but anyway, yeah. So we discover that Wigwe makes sure that the marital arrangements are done really fast. So within 6 months, Ahurole moved into her in-laws' place. Usually, according to their custom, the engagement process and the bride price and all those preparations usually took a year, but Wigwe made sure everything was done within 6 months. So Ahurole was escorted to her in-laws' place by her people and some other people from Omokachi. Remember, Ahurole was from Omigwe. Anyway, so the first few weeks of their marriage were not great. First of all, they were staying in Ekweme's father's house, but shortly afterwards, their house was built. So during their stay in Ekweme's father's house, Ekweme always liked what the mother cooked. Anyway, so we are told, we are given a flashback of why this was so. So when growing up, Ekweme and Adaku are very close. Ekweme is Adaku's first child, so she was always with him. In fact, most of the villagers, like the older villagers, the aunties and the uncles, thought Ekweme won't be man enough because of his attachment to his mom. But luckily, he was involved in a fight and he managed to win the fight. So that's how he gained his respect. And growing up, that grew up with him. We're even told of how he started his trapping business and all that stuff. So anyway, when their house is built, they move into their own house now. They will leave Ekweme's father's house. So they moved into their house. And then on their first night in their house, Ahurole asked Ekweme what he wanted to eat for supper. And his response was, "You're my wife, you're supposed to know what I prefer. Like, you don't have to ask me what I want to eat." So this made her feel sad and she started crying and he got so irritated by it. So we discovered that Ahurole was very sensitive. She cried easily, she got upset easily, and this irritated Ekweme so much. So they argued and he left. So the following day, Wigwe and Adaku sat Ekweme down and they talked to him about how marriage life is. They told him the first few years and the first few months of being married are very, very delicate. Life is not easy and he needed to be patient with the wife. So that very night, Ekweme didn't sleep. The whole time he was thinking about how his friends' wives were not like Ahurole. He imagined how they were so respectful and how they were so well composed and they were so different from Ahurole. And in his imagination, he thought about what his ideal woman should be like. The whole description he had was all pointing to Ihoma. And it's at this point he realized that he never really got over Ihoma. He still had strong feelings for her. So the night passes. So the following day, Kweme went back home. He was tired and hungry, asked for food, and the food was not ready, as well as the water. So he told Ahurole he was no longer hungry. So he went to his room, and Ahurole followed him, only for her to find him eating groundnuts. So this made her upset, and she started crying. Ekweme finds himself arguing with Ahurole, and it's at this point that he slapped her. So he left home. He went to check on his traps. Then Ahurole packed her things and went back to her parents' place in Omigwe. So when Ekweme came back, he discovered his wife had left. She had left home, and it was their custom that he needed to wait 3 days before going to pick her up. So it was then, this is now chapter 22, 23, somewhere there. It was then market day. So the villagers from Omokachi would take their things to the market to sell them. Omokachi was known for the yams and all the vegetables and, you know, all these other things. Then people on the other side of the river were known for the fish. So the people that had the fish, put the name below. I'm really finding it hard to pronounce it. I'm going to insert the name of the other traders. So these people are the ones that had the money, and what they would do, because they were selfish, they would wait to start buying the things later in the evening, and then this would force the villagers to really sell their yams at a very cheap price, and they would end up making a loss. So it was a trend that they knew. Like, they would go to the market in the morning, and then those guys would only want to buy the things later in the evening. And so the Omokachi traders as well as the Omigwe traders would always have to sell their things for a very cheap price. So this really pissed most of the villagers off, Ihoma included. So on their way back from the market, Ihoma and Ekwueme found themselves talking. They talked from the market to Ihoma's place, and it's at this point that Ihoma realized that Ekwueme hadn't gotten over her, and yeah, so this made her feel some type of way, but she didn't tell him. So from then on, whenever Ekwueme had a chance, he would always pass through Ihoma's place and he would have a conversation with her. So then this started making her very uncomfortable, because it got to a point where if he finds her farming in her land, he would sit and watch her work, you know. So it started making her uncomfortable, and she told him about it. She told him, no, I don't feel very comfortable with you coming all the time, like, you know, or in chatting with me in this manner. The villagers might take it a wrong way. Yeah. So anyway, Ahurale is brought back home. Ekwueme manages to go and get her back. She came back home and she discovered that her goat was missing. When she was being brought to her in-laws, her mother had given her a goat. This goat had been hers from the time that she was young, so she was really attached to this goat. So she discovered that her goat was missing. So Ekwueme wanted to do everything to please her. At this point, he wanted to make their marriage work. So he went out to look for the goat. So he checked around. He even went to Ihoma's compound. So on his way out of Ihoma's compound, Ahurale saw him, and she started questioning him. She started asking him questions as to why he was in Ihoma's compound, and she talked about how she heard rumors about him and Ihoma and what relationship they had before he married her. Yeah. So the following day, Ahurale went back to her parents' place during the day. She went to her parents' place, and while there, she explained to the mom, and she told the mom, saying, I think the reason my marriage is not working is because Ekwueme might be in love with Ihoma. So the mother immediately suggested a love potion. She even claimed to have used a love potion on Ahurale's father. So that idea sank in her mind. So immediately she went back home. She went to see Anyika, who was the village dibia, and immediately she arrived. Anyika requested for the manilas. I think she was made to pay 2 manilas. I should think so. Then he threw his cowries down, and he told her immediately, saying he cannot help her because he didn't believe in love potions and he's not that kind of dibia. And he even warned her, saying mostly love potions backfire, and I don't want to be involved in love potions. I don't do that kind of medicine. So desperate, she went back and told the mother, and she told the mother, saying, no, Anyika has refused to give me a love potion. So Wonuma is Ahurale's mother. Decided to tell Onuma, told the daughter, don't worry, don't worry, I've got this, I've got you. So Onuma went to Chioma, where she was given the love potion by a dibia there. I'm going to insert his name. So she was given this love potion, and she was given strict instructions. She needed to put that powder in the victim's soup, then it would work. So Ahurale wondered how she was going to do this, because mostly Ekweme would prefer to eat, they would either eat together or you'd prefer to eat from his mother's place. So she was told, no, just the mother told her, just prepare 2 separate bowls of soup. You prepare his and you prepare yours, and you put the charm in his food, then you don't eat it. So she managed to put the charm in Ekweme's soup, and he ate it. The first 2 days, Ekweme was sick. So Ekweme's condition kept on getting worse by the day. It got worse. His parents even called Anyika to come and give him some medicine, but it seemed like the medicine that Anyika was giving him was making the whole condition worse. Anyway, Ahurale had known already what the issue was. So after he started feeling better, he gained weight, but it's as if life had left him. His eyes seemed empty. He no longer did what he liked doing. He no longer went hunting. He no longer sang with his friends. And each time his parents would talk to him, he would say he's fine, you know. And then this was not like Ekweme. He was an expressive person. So Wigwe and Adaku knew that there was something that was wrong. So one day, Ahurale went to the farm. Ahurale went to the farm, and on her way back, she saw her husband at a distance. And it seemed like the more she walked, he was coming charging towards her. He came charging. So it's at this point she realized she was in danger. So she ran back home, and as she was running, when she reached home, Ekweme came charging towards her. So Wigwe and Adaku tried to hold him, but he managed to escape. So it's at this point that Wigwe knew that there was something that was really wrong with his son. So he called Mom and Wakiri and a third friend of his to go and catch Ekweme, to take him back. They went, they caught him, they took him home, but he escaped and he went missing. So it's at this point that Wigwe had known that they would need more people to help with looking for Ekweme. Luckily, Ekweme was very liked in the village, so everyone was willing to do a favor. So they caught the youths. They told Mom to find someone to give the announcement. So they made a search party for Ekweme. They looked for him. They couldn't find him until they went to, one of them had suggested that they go to the traps, because that was the place that Ekweme knew, and Ekweme was a hunter, so he knew the bush very well. So they looked for him at his traps. They couldn't find him, but fortunately someone spotted him in the tree. Should have been Wakiri spotted Ekweme in the tree, and he signaled his parents. So when Wigwe and Adaku came, they tried pleading with him to calm down, but it was all to no avail. So when they kept quiet, they heard him muttering certain words, like he was shouting, Ihoma, Ihoma, Ihoma. So he was asked, do you want Ihoma? He said yes. Quickly, Wigwe sent someone to go and call Ihoma. So Ihoma came, and when he saw her, he brightened up a little bit. So Ihoma pleaded with him to come, Ihoma pleaded that Ekweme should come down, and quickly and steadily he came down the tree, and he was taken to the house. He was locked in the house, and the gentlemen, the village men, like the men in the village, Wakiri man and his other friends, took turns in guarding his room. So while it's there, Ihoma talks to him, and he entered the house and all that. So the following day, Anyika came. Anyika, the medicine man. In fact, before the whole running situation, Wigwe went and looked for Anyika, but it seemed they missed each other. When Anyika was home, Wigwe was not there. So like they kept missing each other. So when Ekweme came down from the tree, Anyika was called to come and do his divination and then to see what medicine he would give Ekweme. But yeah, so the following day, Anyika came with his medicine, and they tried all tactics to make Ekweme drink the medicine, but Ekweme refused and said he could only drink the medicine if he marries Ihoma, or if Ihoma comes. So Wigwe and Adaku went to Ihoma's place and they pleaded with her. They said, no, Ekweme says he can only drink the medicine if he marries you. Can you please pretend to accept to marry him so that he can drink his medicine and get better? Ihoma was okay. She didn't mind to pretend to marry Ekweme. So all the three went back to Wigwe's house, and Ihoma sat next to Ekweme. Remember, this whole time Ekweme hadn't taken a shower in days, so he was not smelling that great. But Ihoma didn't mind it, so she sat next to him, and Anyika gave him the first dose of medicine, and he drank it. Ihoma even persuaded him to eat. He ate, and she even told him, saying, if you want me to get married to you, you have to bath. So he even went and bathed, and she stayed with him up until he slept. That was the first day. So even the following day, she went back. Anyika came, he administered his medicine, and Ihoma was there also. So eventually Ekweme got better. He got better, and Ihoma was by his side during the whole process of getting better. So it's at this point that they had established that it was a love potion that made him that sick. So after Ekweme got better, he had his smile back. He started singing again. And Wigwe and Adaku felt they owed Ihoma something. They didn't know how to repay her. They thought about everything that she had done for their son, and they wanted to give something back to her. But Ihoma told them it was not necessary. She did it for a friend, and she didn't mind it at all. So anyway, it's at this point that Ekweme realized that, no, I think Ihoma is my person. I really want to marry this person. So he had the discussion with his father. But then Wigwe decided to go and ask. Wigwe and Adaku decided to first go to Anyika for some divination, like to see the future if Ekweme and Ihoma got married. So they went to Anyika, and Anyika told them. Now, in fact, Anyika had suggested that they should go and see him before everything, like before they start to proceed with everything. So when they went, Anyika told them, saying, no, you guys spent so much money during Ekweme's recovery, so instead of you paying me, I'm going to pay the spirits myself. So he got 2 manillas, he gave Wigwe, and Wigwe had to throw that manila in the calabash as payment to the spirits. So Anyika threw his cowries like several times, and with each throw he looked more confused. So after like 3 throws, he then told Wigwe and Adaku, saying, I keep seeing the same message. Like each time I throw these cowries differently, the same message keeps coming up. Ihoma is actually a sea queen who is married to a sea king, and because the sea king is a very jealous man, he does not want her to get married to any mortal. In fact, Eminike, he was okay with Eminike in the beginning, but that's why he ended up killing Eminike. And also he killed Madume because Madume made an advance towards Ihoma. So Ihoma was never meant to be married. She could have been a concubine, she could have been a girlfriend, but she never meant to get married. Meaning every man that falls in love with her and wants to marry her, his end is known, his end is death. So hearing this terrified Wigwe and Adaku. they grew to love Ihoma so much that they wanted her to get married to their son, because they knew just how much she meant to him. So Wigwe and Adaku decided that they should have a second opinion. So they heard of a medicine man in Aliji called Agoturumbe. So they decided to go there. But before they left, they explained to Ekweme what Anyika had told them. And Ekweme was adamant. He didn't want to believe it. He was so in love that he felt like it was not possible for Ihoma, a woman of such good standing, to be a sea goddess. So anyway, Adaku and Wigwe went to Aliji to go and meet this other medicine man. And the journey to Aliji was far, so it was not a go-come journey. So they went and they were given a room and they stayed. Then Agoturumbe, through his cowries, they paid the money, then he gave his divination. But he said the exact same things Anyika had said. The only difference was Agoturumbe said he can plead with the sea king to allow Ekweme to get married to Ihoma. And this gave them some sweet relief. It gave them hope. It made them happy. It made Adaku and Wigwe happy. So when they went back home, in fact, Agoturumbe gave them a list of the things that were needed for the sacrifice. Among them was a white cock, a red cock, a colorful lizard, some money, and several other things. So they were so hopeful, they were so happy. They went back to Omokachi and they told Ekweme the good news. So it's at this point that Ekweme told Ihoma about it. He told her saying, these guys are saying that you are a sea goddess. You are a sea goddess and no man is supposed to marry you. You're just supposed to be your husband. Your sea husband doesn't want you to get married, but you can be someone's concubine, you just can't be a wife. So anyway, this terrified Ihoma and she found it funny. So she laughed, but she was terrified and she felt sorry that Ekweme had to go through all these things. He had to raise all this money just to marry her, and yet it was her fault. She felt kind of like it was her fault. She felt bad anyway about the whole situation. So weeks go by, and Agoturumbe, in fact, this whole sacrifice needed to be done on a river, since the sea king was in the water, so it needed to be done on the river. But in Aliji there wasn't a river, there was no river, so Omokachi had a river, and the agreement between the Dibia and Ekweme's parents was it was going to come to their village. They were going to come to their village, then they would do the sacrifice on the Omokachi river. Anyway, days go by, they find a few things, they start gathering the things for the sacrifice. Finally, the Dibia comes. Agoturumbe comes. Now, Agoturumbe was a chubby man, not very chubby, but he had a very shiny stomach. That's what the book describes him. And he moved around with a boy who carried his bags and his, the bag that had the medicine and all the cowries and all that stuff. So anyway, he comes, and then because he's a well-known Dibia in that area, villagers start flocking to Wigwe's house. So he came, and his strict instruction, his instructions were no woman was supposed to enter his room. So even when food was prepared, it was Wigwe who was supposed to give him that food. So during his stay in Wigwe's compound, people of Omokachi got excited. He became popular. You know how people like new things and new people, and they said they had so many different assumptions as to why Wigwe would invite Agoturumbe to his compound and not consult Anyika. Others said no, it's because Anyika is expensive. There were so many other theories surrounding Agoturumbe's coming. Yeah, but only Wigwe's family knew why he was really there. So during his stay there, villagers flocked to the yard, and he gave them medicine and all that. So because so many people came to see him, he started running out of his medicine and all other things. So he decided to go on a medicine hunt. He started running out of stock, so he needed to restock his medicine. On his way, early in the morning, because this was supposed to be done early in the morning. So early in the morning, on his way to the forest, he met Anyika. Agoturumbe met Anyika. And Anyika and Agoturumbe had respect for each other. They had respect for each other. They both knew they were powerful Dibias, so there was no jealousy there. It's just total respect. And Agoturumbe even asked Anyika for help on where to find the mouse ears plants, and Anyika helped him with the direction and all that stuff. Anyway, so Agoturumbe goes back home and they set the day for the sacrifice. They set the date for the sacrifice, and Agoturumbe asked Wigwe if he had found a boat and the boat driver, the boat sailor. Yeah, and Wigwe hadn't found somebody yet. It's like he had given that task to Ekweme, and Ekweme was so reluctant about it that he didn't find the driver yet. So Agoturumbe got irritated by the whole situation. Like, guy, the only reason I'm here is because of you. I don't know why you're not finding the medicine man and all that. So Ekweme's defense was he was no longer comfortable with going ahead with the sacrifice. The biggest fear he had was swimming. He didn't know how to swim, and the fact that this whole sacrifice was to be done at midnight in the middle of the river didn't sit well with him. And then also the Sea King, in fact, what put fear in Ekweme was Agoturumbe started explaining how the whole sacrifice would go. He told Ekweme, Agoturumbe will hold one cock this side and the other cock, the white and the red one. Then I'll plead with the Sea King. It's at this point that the chicken heads will get strangled. The chickens will get strangled, and I have to throw them in the sea. So that whole explanation put so much fear in Ekweme that he started feeling like backing out of the whole sacrifice situation. So Agoturumbe managed to calm Ekweme's spirit down, and he told him, I've got you. You don't have to get worried. I am a very powerful Dibia. This is not my first rodeo. He told him, this is not my first. This is not the first time I'm doing such a sacrifice before. So don't worry. So at this point, Ekweme got Wakiri, his friend, and they went to the banks of the river to go and find a boat and the sailor. When they reached, most of these boatmen were really worried. They were scared. Like, why would you want me to drive my boat in the middle of the sea at midnight? And Ekweme didn't know how to explain this to them. Luckily, one sailor was okay with the whole thing. In fact, the first person that he talked to, he offered the boat owner wanted 5 manilas. Ekweme offered 3, then they settled at 4. Then that one, the one who emerged from nowhere, charged Ekweme 15 manilas, and he said, I've driven so many people in the middle of this river for different things at midnight, so I don't mind it. You just have to give me 15 manilas. And Ekweme was okay with that. So he went back home. Sorry about that. He went back home, and Ihoma was there. They played a little. He even sat on Ihoma's laps. So before the whole playing situation, Ihoma's son, I'll insert his name, I'll insert his name, I forgot to pronounce it. Ihoma's son was trying to be a hunter, so he used to play with bow and arrows. So Ekweme, remember I had said they hadn't finished gathering everything. The only thing that had remained was a colored lizard. So Ekweme even gave this boy a few hints, like, I want you to kill a colored lizard for me, and if you're using an arrow, you need to point it towards the wall, then it's going to, fly to the other direction. So don't point it directly at what you want to kill, but point it in a different angle so that when the wind blows, it can fly to another location, whatever. So I gave him that pointer, and Ihoma's son left. So Ihoma and Kweme romanced a little. He was sitting on her laps, he was playing with her hair, they talked a little bit, and he stood up. He was walking to his room. Then all of a sudden, he felt pain in his stomach, and guess what it was? It was the arrow from Ihoma's son. So that arrow pierced his stomach. He fell to the ground, and Ihoma didn't know what to do. She was crying, she was rolling on the ground. Ekweme was carried, taken to his house. Aguturumba inquired what kind of bow it was. It was a bow it was an arrow that had bow. It had how do I say this? Arrow. So when it pierced Ekweme, they couldn't pull it out, or like just pull it out, because it had some, anyway, so they couldn't just pull it out. It was going to hurt him. So when they finally managed to pull it out, it came out with so much of Ekweme's flesh. They tried everything, and just as the village knows, death knocks at midnight, and that's how Ekweme died. And that's how the novel ended. So it all ended with Ekweme dying, which proved that Ihoma was really a sea goddess. So yeah, so this is the end of the concubine. See you in the next one. We're going to be reviewing, I don't know, you tell me, which one should we do? Old Man and the Meadow or An Easy Yoke? I don't know, I'm failing to choose, so help me choose. But anyway, don't forget to follow me on all my socials. On Facebook, it's Nelly Mpokosa. Instagram, Nelly Mpokosa. TikTok, Nelly Mpokosa. That's the name. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much for being with me. See you in the next one.